The distress signal they see was calm that night. The full moon hung above the Pacific like a silver eye, watching everything in silence. Captain Raymond Cole stood on the deck of the Astra 9, a private deep-sea research ship. His crew was small, just 6 people, but every one of them was the best at what they did. Oceanographers, engineers, satellite signal experts. For 2 years, they had been mapping ocean floors no one had ever touched, looking for strange anomalies, underwater secrets, maybe even ancient shipwrecks, but they never expected to find something like this. At exactly 3:11 a.m., they had picked up a signal. It came suddenly, no warning, no build-up, just a loud metallic pulse followed by a strange clicking sound, like an insect trapped in a steel box. The signal came from an area where no ships were ever recorded, no planes ever crashed, no submarines ever explored. It came from a part of the ocean that didn't even have a name on their map, just labeled Deep Zone 7. Raymond leaned against the railing, eyes on the dark water. Something didn't feel right. The signal had stopped after 3 minutes. It hadn't repeated, but it had left behind a strange echo in their systems, one that seemed to move, almost like it was alive. "Captain," said a voice behind him. It was Dr. Lena Hart, their sonar specialist. Her face was pale. "You need to see this." Raymond followed her down into the control room. The walls were filled with screens showing sonar waves, water temperatures, and deep-sea maps. On one screen, something massive was showing up, a shape long, hollow, sharp edges. Not a mountain, not a reef, a ship, but it was deep, resting nearly 9,000 meters under the surface. "It's bigger than any wreck we've seen," Lena whispered. "At least 700 meters long. And it's not metal from Earth. I ran a scan." Raymond frowned. "Then what is it?" Before she could answer, the ship's lights flickered. A soft humming started in the walls. The whole vessel seemed to shift just for a moment, as if something unseen had brushed past it. Then came the sound again. Click, click, click. This time, it came from their own communication system. "Was that playback?" Raymond asked. Lena shook her head. "No, Captain, that came through our radio just now. It's responding to us." By morning, they had moved directly above the signal's origin. The sea looked normal, peaceful, but something deep below was watching them, waiting. They sent down a drone. The camera feed was sharp, clear, and steady until it wasn't. As the drone reached 8,500 meters, static started creeping into the screen. The lights began flickering. Then they saw it. The ghost ship. It wasn't sunken like normal ships. It stood upright, perfectly still, as if resting gently on the ocean floor. Its surface was smooth, metallic, but covered in strange glowing lines like veins, and it was huge, longer than an aircraft carrier, tall like a skyscraper. There were no markings, no name, no flag, just one symbol, a circle with 3 broken lines across it, like an eye with scars. And then the drone went dead. The signal was cut off instantly. No warning. 1 second the ship was there, next second, darkness. But the worst part wasn't losing the drone. It was the face they saw in the final frame. It appeared for just a split second. Not human, not fish, a pale, hollow-eyed shape with a stretched mouth, pressed against the drone's lens, watching them, smiling. Raymond ordered all engines off. They were not going anywhere until they understood what they had found. Later that night, crew member Smitty, who had been monitoring external heat signals, called for help. "Captain, you need to see this." Raymond rushed into the data lab. Smitty pointed at the thermal screen. "This ship, it's not dead. It's generating heat from inside. A lot of it." "That's impossible," Lena said. "There's no engine, no reactor." Smitty zoomed in. Something inside the alien ship was moving. Dozens of heat signatures, all of them humanoid in size and shape, all of them walking around the structure. But they weren't alive. No heartbeat, no rhythm, no pattern. "Ghosts," Smitty muttered, "or something worse." That night, the Astra 9 rocked against calm waves. No wind, no storm. But something bumped into the hull from below, hard, like metal scratching against metal. The lights flickered again. Raymond went outside, flashlight in hand. He looked over the edge. For a second, he thought he saw a figure standing on the water, just standing, tall, still. Long arms. No face. Then it sank without a sound. When he ran back in, he saw it. On the window. In fresh sea salt. You opened it. The crew began arguing. Some wanted to leave. Others wanted to go down and explore the alien ship in person. It's not just a wreck, Lena said. It's sending signals. It's still alive. Maybe even intelligent. This is first contact. Raymond looked out at the sea again. Something had changed. The water was darker now. The moon looked duller, and the air smelled like rusted blood. We go at first light, he said. We put on suits. We go and we finish what we started. None of them slept that night, and when morning came, the sea was gone. Not dry. Just black, like something massive was floating just under the surface, swallowing all light. The ship had risen, only part of it, but enough. It was there. Visible. Waiting. And now they had no choice. They had already answered its call. The sea was silent. No waves, no wind, just an endless black surface, still like oil. The alien ship now floated half above the water, like a monster rising from sleep. It groaned as it moved, metal grinding against metal, as if it didn't like being awake. Captain Raymond Cole stared at it from the edge of the Astra 9. The part of the ship above the water was massive. Its outer shell was silver black, with glowing lines running across the sides like nerves under the skin. There were no windows, no doors, no clear way in. Just a huge crack running along the middle, wide enough for a small sub to enter. We shouldn't do this, said Lena. Her hands were shaking. That thing isn't a ship, it's a grave. Raymond didn't respond. He was already climbing into the deep-sea shuttle with Smitty and Dr. Ellen. The three of them would go in first. The rest of the crew would stay on the Astra 9 and monitor the feed. The shuttle slowly moved through the water and entered the crack in the ship's side. As soon as they crossed the threshold, the signal went static. The inside was not what they expected. Instead of tight halls or control rooms, the alien ship was hollow like the inside of a giant skeleton. Walls curved in strange shapes. The floor was covered in dark, wet moss. Lights flickered overhead. Though no one knew where the power came from. Then came the sound. Whispers. At first, they were soft, like a song in another room. But as they moved deeper, the whispers grew louder, and they were in English now. Raymond. He froze. Did you hear that? Smitty and Ellen nodded slowly. Each of them was hearing their name. Over and over. Come closer. Come inside. Lena's voice crackled through the headset. Captain, are you picking up strange frequencies? Your audio is looping. No, Raymond said. That's not a loop. It's the ship. They moved into the next chamber. Inside. The walls were filled with faces, not carved, not printed, but alive. Somehow. Thousands of faint, ghostly images trapped under the surface of the walls, screaming, reaching, like souls trying to escape. They're alive, Ellen whispered. Raymond raised his light. The faces turned and looked at them. Just for a moment. Then they vanished. Back on the Astra 9. The rest of the crew was panicking. The feed from the shuttle was glitching. Screens showed strange symbols. The temperature inside the ship kept changing, hot, cold, then freezing. Lena was trying to decode the audio when she noticed something terrifying. The voice whispering to Raymond was her own. I'm not saying anything, she told the others, but the ship is using my voice. What does it want? Asked Kieran, the engineer. Lena didn't answer. She didn't know yet. Inside the ghost ship, Raymond's team found a long hallway. At the end of it, a strange door waited. It was round, smooth, and pulsing like a heartbeat. As they got closer, the whispering stopped. The door opened by itself. Inside was a dark room, with only one thing in it, a chair. Floating above the ground, glowing slightly, Smitty stepped forward. But the moment he crossed the threshold, something hit him. Memories. Not his own. He screamed and fell back. Raymond caught him. Smitty's eyes were wide, filled with tears. I saw everything, he whispered. The stars, the wars, the burning planets. This ship, it's not just a ghost, it's a weapon. And it remembers everyone who enters. Ellen slowly walked to the chair. Stop, Raymond said. But she didn't listen. The moment she touched it, the room lit up. A hologram appeared above the chair, a map of the stars. But most of the stars were crossed out, burned away. Only one remained. Earth. Raymon stared in horror. This isn't a wreck, it's a warning. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the chamber. The ship shook violently. Something was waking up. Back to the shuttle, Raymond shouted. They ran. The walls screamed with them. Voices shouted in all languages, some human, some not. The moment they exited the crack and returned to the sea, the shuttle's systems came back online. We're out, Raymond shouted into the comms. Get ready to pull us back. But there was no answer. The Astronine was no longer where they left it. The sea was empty. Then they saw it, floating upside down. The Astronine was wrecked. No lights, no movement. They docked at the broken ship and climbed inside. It was quiet. To quiet. No blood, no damage, just as silence. The control room was empty. Raymond walked slowly through the hall. Every room was the same. The beds were made, the tools untouched, but no people. It was like the crew had just disappeared. Smitty opened a door and screamed. The lights on the Astronine were gone. Raymond, Ellen, and Smitty stood in the dark, surrounded by silence. But this wasn't normal silence. It was heavy, thick, and alive. They could feel it pressing against their skin, crawling into their minds. This isn't the ship anymore, Ellen whispered. It's something else, outside the windows. There was no sea, no stars, just blackness, endless and empty. But Raymond knew the truth. They hadn't moved. The world had. The alien ship had pulled them in. Not through engines or gravity, but through thought. Like a dream that traps you inside it. The ship was alive. And it was thinking. They moved carefully through the dark halls of the Astronine. The walls looked the same as before. But something felt off. Shadows moved even when there was no light. Reflections in broken glass showed places they hadn't been. Raymond picked up Lena's old tablet. It turned on by itself. A single message blinked across the screen. We dreamed you. What does that mean? Smitty asked, voice shaking. It means we're inside its mind, Ellen said. The alien ship isn't a machine. It's a brain, a memory. It remembers everything it touches. And now we're part of that memory. They reached the command room. The chairs were still in place, the coffee mugs still full. But there were no people. Raymond touched the control panel. A soft hum filled the room. The ship was listening. Suddenly, the screens turned on, one by one. The crew members who had vanished appeared on the monitors. They were screaming, each trapped in a small glass-like room, floating in black water, faces pale, eyes wide, mouths open, but no sound came through. They're alive, Smitty shouted. No, Ellen said, her voice trembling. They're not. They're memories. The ship recorded them, like data. It didn't just take their bodies, it copied them. Raymond stepped back. The screen flickered. Now it showed him not standing, but floating, arms stretched out, eyes closed. It's recording us now, he said slowly. That's what it does. It pretends to welcome you. Then it remembers you, keeps you. The sound of footsteps echoed behind them. They turned fast, but no one was there. Then came the whisper again. Captain, Raymond's heart stopped. It was Lena's voice. But Lena was gone. The whisper came again. Closer now. You left us. I didn't, Raymond shouted. We tried to bring you back. More voices joined hers. Voices of the missing crew. You brought it to life. You opened the door. You led it to Earth. That last line made all three freeze. What did it say? Smitty asked. Raymond's face went pale. You led it to Earth. Suddenly, the ship shook. A deep sound filled the air, like a giant heartbeat, pulsing through the metal dot. And then came a vision. Not on a screen, not in a dream, but inside their minds. They saw cities burning, oceans rising, the sky cracking open. And through it all, the alien ship floated calmly above Earth, releasing long, black shapes into the world. Ghosts made of light and bone, feeding on memory, feeding on fear. Ellen fell to her knees, crying. It's not just a ship, it's a weapon, a living, thinking weapon, and we brought it here. Raymond grabbed her arm. We can stop it. We have to. How? Smitty asked. We're inside its head. It controls everything. Raymond looked around. Not everything. It doesn't understand us. Not fully. It copies, but it doesn't feel. That gave Ellen an idea. What if we give it something it can't understand? Raymond frowned. Like what? Sacrifice, she said softly. Choice. Humans are strange like that. We throw ourselves into fire for others. We die for people we love. Maybe the ship can't copy that. They stared at each other. It was risky, but it was all they had. They ran back to the shuttle. The darkness inside the ship was getting thicker now, heavy and alive. It moved like smoke, but whispered like people. Arms reached from the shadows, long and wet, pulling at their clothes, their skin, their memories. Ellen screamed as a hand gripped her ankle. Raymond turned and fired the flare gun. The light pushed back the dark just for a moment, enough for them to pull Ellen free. They reached the shuttle, but only the seats were working. Raymond didn't hesitate. You to go, he said. I'll stay behind. No, Ellen shouted. We go together. There's no time, Raymond said. This thing wants me. Let it take me. Just get back. Warn the world. Smitty stared at him, then nodded slowly. Ellen cried, You don't have to do this. Raymond smiled sadly. I already did. He pushed the button. The shuttle launched, and he turned back toward the dark. Inside the alien ship, the shadows welcomed him. He walked slowly, letting it take him. He saw the faces of his crew, not angry now, just sad. They reached for him. He didn't pull away. He let the ship copy him. He let it remember, and as it did, he thought one thing. Remember this too. Humans fight back. Far above, the shuttle broke through the surface. The ocean returned. The sky was clear. Ellen and Smitty looked down from the window. The alien ship was gone. Vanished. As if it had never been there. But they both knew the truth. It was still down there. Waiting. And now it dreamed of Earth. The rescue ship Cassandra picked up Ellen and Smitty 2 days after the shuttle surfaced. They had drifted in the ocean for hours before the signal was caught by a satellite. When the crew of the Cassandra pulled them on board, they were dehydrated, shivering, and half delirious. But it wasn't the cold or the fear that haunted them. It was the silence. Not just any silence, that silence. The kind that feels like someone watching you, just out of sight. Ellen sat in the med bay with her knees pulled to her chest. We left him behind, she whispered. Smitty sat beside her. His eyes were red. He made us leave. He gave us a chance to warn them. Neither spoke for a long time. Then Ellen said something strange. Sometimes, at night, I can still hear the heartbeat. Smitty looked at her. Me too. The Cassandra's Captain Marcus Del Rey was a strict military man. He didn't believe their story, not at first. An alien ship at the bottom of the ocean? Disappearing crews? A vessel that thinks and dreams? He thought they were traumatized, maybe hallucinating, maybe exposed to deep-sea gas. But then the engineers found the shuttle's flight log. It had over 100 hours of recorded footage, but only 48 hours had passed. The rest of the video, static, distorted light, and voices, human voices, whispering things that couldn't be explained. Worse, when the footage was slowed down, someone saw something in the static. Captain Raymond, standing in a corridor, eyes glowing faintly. Smiling. But when they reversed the video frame by frame, the smile moved backward. As if he was never smiling at all. The Cassandra changed course. They were ordered to head back to the mainland. Ellen begged them not to. You don't understand, she shouted. It's awake now. It followed us. Everyone thought she meant the ship. But she wasn't talking about the whole ship. She meant the part that copied them. The part that remembered. The part that escaped. That night, one of the engineers went missing. His bed was empty, no sign of struggle. But on the wall above his pillow, a single word had been burned into the metal. Recording. The next day, a second crewman disappeared. Then a third. Ellen demanded they stop the ship and scan the lower decks. Captain Del Rey finally agreed. They sent a team of 4. Only one came back. She didn't speak. She just stared into space, her hands dripping with salt water. She had a message carved into her arm. Inside is coming out. Smitty sat with Ellen in the darkened med bay. We didn't leave it behind, he said slowly. Ellen nodded. Double quotes. No. It left part of itself with us. That night, the ship lights began to flicker. Everyone was locked in their rooms. cameras picked up shadows moving through the hallways, but there was no one there. Not really, just reflections of people who weren't on the ship anymore. Ellen woke in the middle of the night to find Lena, her old crewmate, standing at the foot of her bed. She looked exactly the same, except for her eyes. They glowed softly, like fire underwater. "You brought it to the surface," she whispered. "Why?" Ellen asked. "To show Earth what waits in the dark," Lena said. Then she vanished. In the engine room, alarms started blaring, but there was no fire, no breach, only cold ice formed on the walls. The ship groaned as if something massive was pressing against it from the inside. Captain Del Rey shouted into the comms, "Report. What's happening down there?" A voice answered. It wasn't a crew member. It was Raymond. "Captain," he said softly, "you need to see." The cameras turned on by themselves. Every screen on the Cassandra showed the same thing: the alien ghost ship floating under the Cassandra. Right beneath it, waiting. Elen ran to the bridge. "We have to leave this spot now." But it was too late. The sea beneath them boiled. The Cassandra shook violently as if something huge was rising from below. Crew members screamed. Then the ship was pulled downward, not into water, but into blackness. Again. When the shaking stopped, they were no longer in the ocean. Just like before, the world had vanished. Only darkness remained outside the windows. Captain Del Rey tried to steer the ship. The controls were dead. "We've been taken," Ellen whispered. Again. But this time was different. The ghost ship hadn't swallowed just them. It had copied the Cassandra. And now the copy existed inside the alien's memory forever. In the shadowy corridors of the dream ship, Ellen saw strange rooms that showed impossible things: a burning Earth, skies full of alien ships, humans trapped in endless loops living the same days over and over. And in one room, Raymond. He looked human, but his skin shimmered like water. He smiled when he saw her. "You're here," he said. "You're not real," Ellen whispered. "I'm more real than you now," he replied. She took a step back. "What does it want from us?" she asked. Raymond's face turned dark. "It wants what we are, what we feel, what we fey." The ghost ship was not just a place, it was a mind. And now Ellen, Smitty, and the remaining crew of the Cassandra were trapped inside that mind. Everything looked like the real world, but at WAS and single quotes walls shifted when no one looked. Voices echoed without sources. Sometimes they walked in a straight line and ended up where they started. It was like being stuck in a loop. But Ellen had a plan. She believed the alien ship's power came from its memories, a core where all thoughts and stolen images were stored. "If we destroy the memory," she told Smitty, "maybe we can wake up or break the loop." They wandered the halls of the fake Cassandra. The lights were dim, everything was too quiet. Then they heard a whisper. "Come see." They turned a corner. There stood a door, a new one. It hadn't been there before. It looked ancient, covered in strange markings and glowing faintly. Smitty stepped back. "That wasn't there a second ago." Ellen stared at the door. "It wants us to go in," she said. "It's a trap," Smitty whispered. Ellen looked at him. "Maybe, but it might also be the way out." They opened the door. Inside was a vast chamber, much bigger than the ship should have been able to hold. The walls were black, curved, and smooth like glass. Floating in the center was a huge, dark orb. It pulsed with light like a heartbeat. The core. All around the room, ghostly figures floated. Some were human, some were alien, some were unrecognizable. They turned to face Ellen and Smitty. They all had no eyes, only dark holes. Ellen stepped forward, trying not to show fear. She spoke loudly. "I know what you are. You feed on thoughts, on fear, on pain." The figures didn't speak. They floated closer. Smitty raised a flashlight. The beam passed through them, but they felt cold, as if their presence alone drained heat from the air. One of them whispered, "You came from Earth," or another spoke, "So full of memories, so much chaos." Then a third, "We want to know all of you." Suddenly, the dark orb pulsed brightly. A beam of light shot out and hit Ellen in the chest. She collapsed, screaming. Smitty rushed to her, shouting her name, but Ellen wasn't in pain. Not exactly. She was seeing things. A flood of images rushed into her mind, cities burning, Oceans boiling, sky turning black, human soldiers fighting shadows, people vanishing into walls. She saw herself over and over again running, screaming. Trapped, the ship was showing her all versions of herself from every loop, every copy. Every failed escape. Ellen gasped and sat up. The orb's light faded. The ghostly figures hovered silently. Smitty helped her to her feet. What happened? Ellen looked shaken, but something had changed in her eyes. I saw everything. It's been copying people for thousands of years, whole ships, whole crews, over and over again. Why? Smitty asked. To understand us, to learn emotion, pain, memory. She looked up at the orb. And it's learning fast. Then, a voice came from behind them. It was Raymond, or at least, the thing that looked like Raymond. You shouldn't be here, he said calmly. You're not him, Ellen said. The thing smiled. No, but I remember him, and I remember you. You're just a memory, Smitty said. The Raymond thing stepped closer. Yes, but in this place, memory is everything. That makes me real enough to hurt you. Suddenly, the ghostly figures lunged. Ellen and Smitty ran. They raced through the impossible corridors. Rooms twisted, doors shifted. Sometimes they'd run through a door and come back to the same room. Sometimes time itself seemed to slow then speed up. But Ellen noticed something. The lights, she said. They're blinking slower the closer we get to the orb. Smitty blinked. So maybe time is breaking down near the core. That means it's weak there. She grabbed his arm. We can overload it. They made it back to the core chamber. The ghost figures circled, but didn't attack. It was as if the ship was watching, curious. Ellen reached into her bag and pulled out a device. A pulse scanner. We charge this and blast the core with high-frequency energy, she said. It's not a bomb, but if we fry its thoughts, maybe we can break the loop. Smitty hesitated. What if it traps us forever? Ellen smiled faintly. Then, we die trying. They activated the scanner. It began to hum. Lights flickered. The orb's pulsing sped up as if it sensed the threat. The air grew cold. The ghostly shapes screamed. One rushed toward Ellen. Smitty jumped in front of her, slamming it with the scanner. The figure dissolved into smoke. Then the orb pulsed violently. The whole room shook. The scanner hit 100%. Ellen screamed. Now she slammed the button. A blinding flash, a deafening sound. Then, nothing. When Ellen opened her eyes, she was lying on cold metal. The walls were still. No whispers. No shadows. Smitty coughed nearby. The orb was cracked. Dark liquid oozed from it, vanishing into the air. The ghost figures were gone. The core was silent. Suddenly, alarms blared. But this time, they were real. Mechanical, human-made. A voice echoed through the speakers. This is Deep Sea Command. To research vessel Cassandra. We have you on radar. Confirm status. Ellen looked at Smitty. They were back. Back on the real ship. Back in the real world. Or so it seemed. But in the med bay later, Ellen stared into a mirror. And for just 1 second, her reflection didn't move. It just smiled and whispered, "We remember you." Ellen couldn't sleep. After they escaped the alien ship's memory trap, the world felt off. Back on the real Cassandra, everything looked normal. Smooth steel walls, blinking lights, the soft hum of machines. But something inside her had changed. She kept checking mirrors. The memory of her reflection smiling without her smiling haunted her. Smitty tried to act normal, but she saw the way his hands shook. Sometimes, he stopped mid-sentence, like he was trying to remember what he was saying. Other times, he stared into space for minutes at a time. The truth was simple. They had escaped the ship, but the ship had not let them go. 2 days after the rescue, a small team arrived to pick them up. 2 scientists, 1 commander, and a new crew. The Deep Sea Authority wanted answers. Tell us what happened, the lead scientist said. What did you see inside the anomaly? Ellen hesitated. If she told them the truth, they would never believe her. That the ship was alive. That it trapped people in loops. That it learned human emotion by eating memory. And worst of all, that it might have followed them back. Smitty answered for both of them. The ship's gone. We destroyed its core. Whatever it was, it's over. But Ellen wasn't so sure. That night, Ellen woke to the sound of the ship humming wrongly. The engines weren't running. There were no storms. But a deep vibration passed through the floor. She stepped out into the hallway. The lights were dim. Down the corridor, she saw a shadow standing at the far end. It didn't move. It didn't blink. It looked like Raymond. Captain? She called out. No answer. She stepped forward. The lights blinked. The shadow was gone. She rushed to the control room. Smitty was already there. He looked pale. You saw him too, didn't you? He whispered. Ellen nodded. It's starting again. They checked the cameras. The footage was full of glitches, loops, repeats. One hallway showed Ellen walking over and over again though she hadn't been there for hours. Another showed the door to the lab opening by itself every 7 minutes. Smitty rewound the footage. At the 13th loop, the video changed. Instead of the door opening, the screen showed someone inside the lab watching them. The problem was, there was no one in the lab. The next morning, one of the new crew members vanished. His name was Harlan. One moment he was working in the engine bay. The next, he was gone. The camera feed cut out for seconds. When it returned, Harlan's workstation was empty and a wet footprint was left on the floor. The other crew searched the ship. No sign. The commander ordered a full lockdown. No one in or out. No external transmissions. No movement without a partner. But by the end of the day, 2 more people had vanished. And one of them was the lead scientist. Ellen was in the mess hall. When it happened, she heard the scream echo from the hallway. By the time she and Smitty reached the lab, the scientist was gone, vanished in front of the others. Only her glasses remained, cracked, covered in black slime. This is the ship, Smitty said. It left something inside us. It's infecting this one too. The commander didn't want to hear it. You're both grounded. Stay in your quarters. They didn't argue. They knew what had to be done. In their room, Ellen pulled out the pulse scanner they had used inside the alien core. It was fried, damaged from the last blast. But maybe they could rewire it. If we can send a signal back, mimic the core's frequency, we might be able to wake the others. Or force the ship to reveal itself, or it might kill us, Smitty said. Ellen looked up at him. I think we're already dead if we do nothing. They got to work. The next night, the ship shook again. Lights failed across the main deck. Doors refused to open or close. The ship's AI voice began stuttering. Warning, Syst, loop, detect, Ted. The commander finally admitted the truth. Something is inside the ship, he said. Something we can't see. We are being watched. Then, over the intercom, a voice, not the AI, not a human. It whispered, you left us behind. But we never left you. The crew froze. The voice came again. We are memory. We are see. We are dream. Ellen and Smitty activated the scanner. It began to hum just like before. This time, they tuned it to a new setting, a loop frequency. They found in the video glitches. They pushed the signal out through the ship's speakers. At first, nothing. Then, the shadows screamed. Across the walls, shapes twisted. The ghost ship was trying to break free to take full form. But Ellen's scanner held it back, just barely. And in that moment, Ellen saw the real alien ship floating deep beneath the Cassandra. Still attached, like a parasite. A second ship in the dark, invisible to radar. Alive. Waiting. Ellen spoke into the intercom. If you can hear this, if you're human, don't come for us. We brought back a monster. We thought we escaped. We didn't. Smitty triggered the ship's deep sea beacon. A final message. Ghost ship in Earth's ocean. Do not approach. Do not remember. As the scanner overloaded, the Cassandra's lights exploded. And deep below, the alien ship opened its mind one more time and swallowed them whole. Everything was quiet again. No lights. No voices. No time. Ellen woke up slowly, her mind foggy. She opened her eyes and found herself floating. She wasn't in her room. She wasn't on the Cassandra. She was in a gray space, soft and silent, like being underwater but without water. Shapes floated past her. Some were people, some were things, some had no names. She saw memories, hers and others. A child playing on a beach, a soldier screaming in battle, a ship vanishing into fog, a mother holding her baby, crying. None of it made sense, but something was watching. She turned her head and saw it. The alien ship, no longer metal, no longer a thing. It was like a brain floating in the dark. Wires pulsed like veins, lights blinked, like thoughts. It reached toward her not with hands, but with feeling. It was trying to understand her. A voice entered her mind, not words, feelings. You are chaos. You are pain. We are memory. Teach us. The alien pushed back. No, she whispered. But the ship pressed harder. You are broken. You are many. Let us make you whole. Suddenly, her mind fractured. She saw 10 versions of herself, all in different times, all in different loops. One screamed in a hallway. One cried in a lab. One stared into a mirror, unmoving. One floated in space, alone. All broken. All lost. We saved you, the ship said. We remembered you. You belong here now. Ellen was slipping, but then she heard a voice. Ellen, wake up. It was Smitty. His voice cut through the fog, and suddenly, she was falling. She hit the ground, metal, cold, hard. She was back on the Cassandra's deck. Smitty stood over her, shaking her. He looked tired, older, worn out. How long was I gone? She asked, coughing. He looked at her strangely. Ellen, it's been for months. She sat up slowly. What happened? Why are we still alive? Smitty helped her to her feet. You and I were the only ones the ship didn't consume fully. It tried to use us, learn from us, but something about your signal blast, it kept part of us free. Ellen looked around. The ship was half destroyed. Panels ripped open, lights blinking red. Everything looked dead, except it wasn't. They both felt it. The alien ship was still connected, still learning, but now it had changed. It wasn't copying humans anymore. It was becoming one. That night, while Smitty slept, Ellen walked to the observation deck. She stared down through the glass floor into the ocean trench below. Far below, she could just see it, the alien ship. Now shaped like a human skull, glowing with red light. Waiting. Not dead. Not gone. She whispered to herself. It's still dreaming. And then, something moved. Not in the water. In her reflection. She blinked. Her reflection was still staring at her, but she had turned away. She ran to Smitty's quarters. Something's wrong, she said. It's in me, in all of us. Even if we leave, it will follow. Smitty nodded slowly. I know. He showed her something he had built. A small cube, silver, humming softly. I made this from the broken scanner and the ship's memory tech. It's a trap. He looked her in the eye. If we can bring it into one place, make it focus on us, we can trap it inside this cube. Ellen stared at the device. You're talking about baiting a monster made of thoughts and memories. He smiled weakly. Exactly. They activated the cube. The ship began to shake. The lights flickered. Voices screamed in the halls. The ghost crew came back, dozens of them. Some looked like the old Cassandra crew. Some were twisted copies. Some were shadows without shape. Ellen and Smitty stood in the command room, holding the cube. The ship around them shifted, walls melted, gravity failed. The alien mind was coming. Why trap us? We gave you memory. We gave you eternity. Ellen whispered. I don't want eternity. She pressed the final key. The cube glowed bright white. A scream echoed so loud it broke glass. The ghost crew melted. The shadows vanished. The ship began to collapse from within. Ellen and Smitty held onto each other. Everything went black. When Ellen opened her eyes again, she was lying in a hospital bed. Real light, real people, real time. A doctor leaned over her. You're safe. You were rescued near the Mariana Trench. She sat up. Where's Smitty? The doctor frowned. There was no one else. She didn't speak for a long time. In her hand, she still held the cube. Now quiet, cold, still glowing faintly. But that night, as she lay in the hospital room, she heard a voice whisper in the dark, we remember. Ellen didn't sleep much anymore. Since she woke up in the hospital, everything had changed. The doctors told her she was safe, that she had been rescued after drifting for days in a broken escape pod near the Mariana Trench. They said there were no signs of alien tech, no signs of the Cassandra, no Smitty. But Ellen knew better. She could feel it in her skin, in her dreams, in the cube she kept hidden in her bag. The small silver cube still pulsed faintly. A heartbeat that didn't belong in this world. 2 weeks Later, Ellen left the hospital without warning. She packed her things quietly. No goodbyes. No explanations. She had one goal: find the alien ghost ship again. She didn't know if it was curiosity, guilt, or something else. Maybe it was calling her. Maybe it had never let her go. She reached out to old contacts, deep-sea researchers, rogue divers, even ex-military. Most of them laughed when she mentioned the ship. One man, an old captain named Reese, didn't laugh. He just asked, "Did it speak to you too?" That's how Ellen knew he had seen it. Reese took her on his private vessel, the Thresher. It wasn't big, but it had old sonar tech stuff that didn't glitch easily. He didn't ask many questions, just gave her coffee and a map. "This is where I lost my crew," he said, pointing near the trench. Voices came through the hull. They called us by name. He never went back until now. Ellen nodded. "This time, we're going to find it." As they neared the spot, strange things started happening again. The sonar glitched. The compass spun in slow circles. Fish disappeared from the water. And at night, the ocean glowed faintly red. Reese wanted to turn back. Ellen said no. That night, she held the cube and whispered, "I'm back. Show yourself." And the sea answered. A wave of silence spread across the ocean. No wind, no waves, no sound. Then, a light appeared deep beneath the water. It wasn't a flare. It wasn't a reflection. It was a door. A massive, glowing hatch, rising from the dark, like a mouth waiting to swallow them whole. Reese backed away from the edge of the boat. "You still sure about this?" he asked. Ellen didn't answer. She was already suiting up. Ellen dove into the sea alone. Her body moved slowly, sinking through dark blue into black. The cube was strapped to her chest. Its light pulsed brighter with each meter. She passed strange shapes in the water, twisting forms that didn't look like fish. Some looked almost human. She reached the glowing hatch. It opened before her without sound or force. She swam through and entered the ship. It wasn't metal anymore. The inside felt like flesh and stone, like she was inside a living machine. Walls pulsed with light. Ceilings breathed softly. The air was thick with memories. She saw echoes walking beside her. People from the Cassandra, her old captain, even Smitty. But they weren't real. They walked in loops, laughed, screamed, cried, over and over. "These are your ghosts," the ship whispered. "You made us with your fear." Ellen kept walking. She reached a room filled with glass walls. Inside each panel, a person, frozen, trapped. Some were her crew. Some were people she didn't know. And then she saw herself, another Ellen, trapped in the glass, eyes wide, mouth open, as if she was screaming forever. She stepped closer. The glass version blinked and whispered, "You never left." Suddenly, the room shattered. Screams filled her ears. She fell into darkness again. When she opened her eyes, she was on a beach. Soft sand, blue sky. Birds. Children playing. Smitty sat next to her, smiling. "You did it," he said. "We're home." It felt perfect, but Ellen didn't move. She knew the truth now. This was the ship. One last trap, a paradise made from her own mind. She reached into her bag, pulled out the cube, and placed it on the sand. "No more lies," she said. She pressed the trigger. The sky cracked like glass. The ocean exploded into static. The beach caught fire. Smitty screamed, not in pain, but like a machine breaking. The cube glowed white-hot, and the alien ship roared like 1,000 voices merging into one. "You destroy what you don't understand. We offered you memory. We offered you forever." Ellen stood tall inside the collapsing dream. "You offered a cage." She pressed the final command, and everything went white. She woke up on the Thresher deck, gasping. Reese pulled her up. "You were under for hours," he said. "We lost your signal." Ellen looked around. The water was calm. No red glow, no static. She looked at her bag. The cube was gone, but so was the ship. For now, because as the sun rose, a small ripple spread across the water, and from the deep a voice whispered in her mind, "We will dream again." Ellen didn't speak much after they returned to land. Reese dropped her off at a quiet coastal town, far from any military base or research lab. He didn't ask for money. He didn't ask for answers. He just said, "Whatever you found down there, don't let it follow you." Ellen gave him a tired smile. It already has. She found a small cabin near the cliffs, facing the open ocean. Every morning, she watched the water. And every night, she dreamed of the alien ship, its shape, its voice, its hunger. She thought it was over, but she was wrong. One night, she woke. Suddenly, her window was glowing red. She jumped from her bed and looked outside. The ocean was calm, but in the sky, something moved. Not a plane, not a satellite. It was shaped like a circle, spinning slowly, and inside it was light, not sunlight, not moonlight. It was the same pulsing, whispering light she had seen in the ship's core. Ellen grabbed her bag and ran toward the beach. The sand was cold under her feet. The waves were perfectly still and naturally still. Suddenly, her calm device, something she hadn't used in weeks, crackled to life. "Ellen, it's Smitty." She froze. The voice was weak, fading in and out. "We're still trapped. You didn't finish it. The cube. It's not enough. Come back one more time. Set us free." Then silence. Ellen dropped the device, her hands shaking. She had buried the cube. She had thrown away every tool, every connection. But it had all been for nothing. The ship was still alive, still connected to her. And Smitty, if that was really him, was still inside. The next morning, she packed her things. No one saw her leave. She didn't need a ship this time. She needed answers, and to get them, she had to go to the one place she promised herself she'd never return, the trench. She chartered a small submersible from an old Russian contact in Guam. It was an ancient thing, loud, rusty, creaking with every wave, but it could dive deep. She didn't tell the pilot the truth, just that she was collecting deep thermal data for a dead research group. They launched at midnight. By 2 a.m., they were diving into the dark. At 10,000 meters. The water was black. Even the fish were gone. The only thing outside was silence. Then the lights went out. The pilot screamed. Something grabbed the sub. It wasn't a hand. It wasn't a tentacle. It was gravity. A pull that dragged the sub downward fast, twisting, spinning. Ellen hit her head. The world went white. She woke up in a room made of glass and light. Not metal, not human. The walls moved like lungs. She stood up slowly, expecting the voice. It came, as always, from everywhere. "You returned." "Why?" She said only one word, "Smitty." The ship pulsed. "He was useful. You are broken, yet you return. Why?" Ellen stepped forward. "I'm not broken. I'm human. We come back. We don't give up." The ship laughed, a sound like bones grinding. "You think this is strength? You bring your pain, your fear. You fill us with noise." Ellen nodded. "Good. Because I brought more than that this time." She pulled out a small black disc. It looked like a rock, but inside was a device. Built by Smitty long ago. It held a self-replicating virus, designed to infect memory tech. She had waited for the right moment to use it. Now was that moment. She threw the disc to the floor. It shattered. And the ship began to scream. Walls cracked. Lights flashed. The ground shook. "What have you done?" Ellen stepped back as the floor broke apart. The trapped ghosts, hundreds of them, rose from the floor. Smitty, her old captain, the lost crew. They were all there, eyes open, voices silent. Then they began to dissolve, not die, but finally release free. Smitty looked at her one last time. "Thank you," he said, and he was gone. The ship tried to hold her, tried to rewrite her mind again, but the virus spread fast. The walls blinked, the memories burned, the illusions fell apart. The ship began to fall into itself like a black hole of memory collapsing. Ellen ran. She jumped through a crack in the wall into open water. The sub was gone. But above her, in the far distance, she saw light, real light. She swam toward it with everything she had. Her lungs burned. Her mind screamed. But she kept going. And finally she broke the surface. A rescue team found her days later. She had drifted near a Philippine island. Dehydrated, weak. But alive. This time, there were no more voices in her head. No dreams. No whispers. She had destroyed the ship from the inside, freed the trapped minds, and ended the nightmare. Or so she believed. Because one night, weeks later, as she stood alone by the ocean again, she saw a child build something in the sand, a toy spaceship. Shaped like the alien ghost ship, Ellen asked. Where did you see that? The child looked at her and said, In my dream. It told me to remember you. Ellen didn't speak to anyone after the child on the beach. The boy had smiled, so innocent. But when he spoke the words, something inside her turned cold again. It told me to remember you. The ship was supposed to be destroyed. The virus should have wiped everything, the memory loops, the illusions, the stolen minds. But somehow, a part of it had survived, and now it was in dreams. She traveled again this time, not to escape, but to find answers wherever she went. Quiet coastal towns, deep ocean listening posts, military sonar stations. She heard rumors, not of a ship, not of metal, but of people dreaming the same thing. Fishermen whispering in their sleep, children drawing strange circles in the sand, divers waking up screaming about glass tunnels in the sea. The ship was no longer in the ocean alone. It had found a new sea, the human mind. Back in Alaska, she met a woman named Dr. Mara Alsing, a neuroscientist who had been studying shared dream patterns. When Ellen showed her the ship's design, the rings, the cube, the glowing circle, Mara turned pale. That's impossible, she said. I've seen this exact shape in the minds of over 100 patients all around the world. Mara called it a cognitive infection, a thought too big for the brain to hold, but still spreading. Like a virus, Ellen had a simpler name for it, the ghost ship. They worked together for weeks, digging through neural scans, deep sleep logs, sonar data, even old submarine mission reports. And the more they found, the worse it got. The dreams were growing. What began as whispers was becoming something bigger, a pattern. The same 3 words kept appearing in journals, audio logs, and patient recordings. We will return. One night, while monitoring a sleeper's brainwaves, Mara saw it happen. The screen filled with spiraling code. The patient's eyes turned black, fully black, and he whispered, "We are the sea now." Then he flatlined. No heart attack, no trauma. His brain just stopped. The ship had taken him. Ellen knew what had to be done. She couldn't fight the ship in dreams. She couldn't attack its mind. But maybe, just maybe, she could lead it back to where it began, to the ocean, and trap it there forever. But for that, she needed bait. Herself. She returned to the Mariana Trench. Alone. No crew, no sub. Just a sealed suit and one device, a transmitter she and Mara built from the original cubes. Fragments. It could emit a signal the ship couldn't resist, a beacon made from its own stolen frequency. She stood on the edge of the drop. Above her, the stars. Below her, miles of black water. She took a deep breath and jumped. She fell through the dark for what felt like forever. Her lights dimmed. Her thoughts began to twist. And then there it was, the ship. But this time, it wasn't metal or glass. It was a cloud. A mass of light and memory, floating like smoke, no shape, only presence. And it spoke, "You again. You always return. Why?" Ellen activated the transmitter. It hummed softly. "Because this time," she said, "you stay here." The ship screamed. Not in anger. In fear. The light around her turned into faces, thousands, maybe millions. People it had absorbed over time. They begged, they cried, they pleaded with her to stop. But she knew they weren't real, just more illusions. She pressed the core. The ocean around her began to boil. Up on the surface, Mara watched her monitors spike. Tsunami sensors lit up. Seismic tremors registered under the trench. And in the center of it all, a sudden drop in all signal frequencies. Like something enormous had just disconnected. Deep below, Ellen smiled as her helmet cracked. The light turned white. The ship folded in on itself, trying to run. But the signal held it down, wrapped it in its own echo. The memories, the stolen dreams, the whispers, they began to fade. And then silence, real silence. The next morning, a research vessel found nothing but calm waters. No wreckage, no bodies, no strange readings. Just deep, peaceful blue. 3 months later, children stopped talking in their sleep. Fishermen stopped seeing lights. The dream stopped spreading. The ghost ship was gone. But Mara kept one file locked in her private drive. A final voice recording Ellen's. Her last words before the ocean swallowed her. "We were never meant to go this deep. but we did. And now I'm taking it all back. Years passed. The sea remained quiet. Until one night, a satellite captured something strange. A signal, not from Earth, not from space, but from the deepest part of the trench. A signal shaped like a heartbeat. One pulse, then nothing. But in that single second, every sleeping human in a 200-mile radius smiled.